Hello, everyone, and welcome to College Algebra. We're gonna be starting with 1.1 here. This is linear equations. We're just solving for x on them. Just keep in mind when you're solving, we're gonna use inverse operations. So that is the opposite of, like, opposite of adding would be subtracting. Opposite of subtracting is adding. Opposite of multiplying is division. Opposite of division is multiplying. I don't know if we get into squares and square roots in this lesson. But the opposite of a square would be a square root. If it was a cube, you'd take a cube root, and so on and so forth. So every math operation has an opposite operation that would, I'm not gonna use the word cancel. So here we're gonna have 2x equals 12. So when we solve this, this is 2 times x equals 12. So the opposite of multiplying is division. So when we divide by it, and whatever you do on one side of an equation, you have to do on the other because it's a balance and we are balancing this equation. So here 2 divided by 2 is 1 because anything divided by itself is 1. So there is our x by itself, and then we do 12 divided by 2 to get our 6. Here, every time we're solving, we're getting x alone. We're solving it to have x equals. So we're gonna get everything that is not x onto the other side of the equation. So here, we're gonna move this 9 first. And we move the 9 first because we work like reverse order of operations. So instead of adding and subtracting first, we're going to add and subtract first. So we're gonna subtract 9, so 9 subtract 9 here is 0. So I'm gonna have 3x equals -9, and then we're gonna divide by 3. Because it's multiplying, opposite of multiplication is division. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So I'm gonna have x equals -9 divided by 3 is gonna give us -3. And then you don't put x equals in these, you just put the number, so -3. My keyboard's over here. You'll get used to seeing me go back and forth. And this part. All right, 7x subtract 4. You will have some of these that are fractions, and that is okay. Just get used to it. Don't let it stress you out. So the first thing we do here is add 4, because we're getting x by itself. So x is with 7, so we're gonna do the subtract 4 first. -4 plus 4 is 0, so we're gonna have 7x equals 4. Then this is being multiplied. The opposite of multiplication is division, so divide by 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1. Anything divided by itself is 1. So x equals 4/7. And leave it like this fraction. You do not need to change it to a decimal, just 4/7. To get a fraction on your keyboard, you can do \. They have the little help key that pops up on the bottom though if you do not want to do that. Okay, 2 fractions, 1/5 x equals 4/15. So here, this is 1/5, but it's also the same as like dividing by 5. So when I see this 1/5, I'm gonna think, how can I get rid of this 5? So x divided by 5, the opposite of division is multiplication, so we're gonna multiply by 5 on both sides. 5 times 1/5, a fifth of 5, or 5 times 1/5 is 1. So x equals, and when we multiply fractions, you multiply tops and bottoms. Since this was a whole number, it's over 1. So 5 times 4 is gonna give us 20. 15 times 1 is gonna give us 15. If this reduces, you have to reduce it. So 20 and 15, 5 goes into both of those. So 5 goes into 20 4 times. And then 5 goes into 15 3 times. If you type that in a calculator, it should simplify that for you. Especially if you have, it's a TI-30XS Multiview. That's the ones we use in class. I don't use it when I come in here because you can't see it. I'll pull up the Desmos scientific calculator. If you're taking the class online, when you take it, there's a calculator that'll pop up for you to use. But this problem, we have two x's. When we have two x's, we move our x's to the same side of the equation. So since I have this 10 over here, I'm gonna move my 6x to my x. So since it's positive, opposite of a positive would be to subtract. So I'm gonna subtract 6x. 6x subtract 6x is 0. So I have 10 here. This is 1 subtract 6x. So I owe you $6 and I give you 1, I still owe you 5. And then I have negative 5 times x. There's that negative there, but it's not subtraction because there's nothing between the 5 and the x. This is multiplication, so we divide by this negative 5. 10 divided by negative 5 is going to give us negative 2 equals, anything divided by itself is 1, negative divided by negative is a positive, so our answer is going to be negative 2. We have two x's, or they're using t this time. Minus 5 equals 30, subtract t. So we're going to move our smaller t to the larger t. So we have 4t and 1t. So 1t is less. I always say to move the smaller to the larger one if there's multiple things going on, because then I'll have that positive t and not have to divide by a negative like we did on the last problem. So I'm going to add t. Remember when we add this, this is 1. So 4 plus 1 is 5t. And I'll go ahead and rewrite. Negative 1 plus 1 is 0 here. So this is gone. Now we're going to move this negative 5 or subtract 5 to 30. So the opposite of subtraction is addition. So I have 5t equals 35. And then the opposite of multiplication is division. So we're dividing by 5. So t equals 7. Here we have 1 subtract x equals 2x plus 22. So since this is a subtract x, I'm going to move it to this positive 2x. So we're going to add x. Remember, we're adding 1. So I'm going to have 1 equals 2 plus 1 is 3x plus 22. Since my x is over here, I need to move my 22 over to the 1. So we're going to subtract because that's the opposite of addition. 1 subtract 22 is going to give us negative 21 equals 3x. That was 0. Divide by 3. Anything divided by itself is 1. Negative 21 divided by 3 is going to be negative 7 equals x. Okay. 5 plus 2n equals 5n plus 8. If y'all ever see me look at the screen like I just did, I'm making sure that the audio is still going. So 2n subtract 2n is 0, and I move this 2n because 2 is less than 5. Then 5 subtract 2n is going to give us 3n, and this plus 8 is still over here, and that 5 is still here. So since my n is over here, I'm going to move my 8 to my 5, so I'm going to subtract 8 because it was positive plus, so subtract. Here it's going to be 0. 5 subtract 8, 5, 6, 7, 8 is negative 3 equals 3n. Opposite of multiplying would be dividing. 3 divided by 3, this is 1, but since it's a negative divided by a positive, we're going to have negative 1 equals n. And remember, you just have to type the number, not the equal sign in the number. Okay, another step. So we have 3, and when it's like this 3 is being multiplied by all of that. Same with this 8 right here. So the first thing we're gonna do, because 3 and 8 don't go into each other, we're going to distribute our 3 here, we're gonna distribute this 8 here. And when I say distribute, that just means multiply. Since it has the 3 by all this stuff in the parentheses, everything that's in those parentheses is gonna be multiplied by 3. So 3 times 2 is 6, and 3 times 3x would give us 9x. Same thing here, so 8 is being multiplied by everything in these parentheses. So this is gonna be 8 times 1, x. 8 times negative 3 is gonna give us negative 24. Now then we're back to our normal problem, so 9 and 8. 8 is less than 9, so I'm gonna subtract 8 because it's positive. Now a positive 8 subtract 8 is 0. 9 subtract 8 is gonna give us just 1x here. If you wanna write the 1, you can. I know some people that just really need to do that, and that doesn't, it's not gonna affect you anyway if you need to write that 1. But x is over here, so I need to move this 6, it's positive, so we're gonna subtract 6 to make that 0 over there. Here we have a negative 24 subtract 6, so that's, I spent $24, I spent 6 more, so it's gonna be negative 30. Okay, we have 5x, my 5s are weird, we'll get used to that. 3x plus 3 equals 4x subtract 11. Okay, since there's this subtract in front, we're subtracting all of this, which it's kind of like distributing a negative 1. The first thing I like to do if I ever see a subtract in front of a parentheses is change those signs. So it's a negative times a positive is going to be negative 3x. A negative times a positive is going to be subtract 3 here. So now then those parentheses are gone because I went ahead and distributed that negative. I multiplied these by that negative. Now then, if there's ever x's on the same side, combine them first. So 5 subtract 3x is going to give us 2x. Subtract 3 equals 4x. Subtract 11. Then combine your x's first. So I have 2x on this side and 4x on this side. 2 is smaller than 4, so I'm going to subtract 2x. 2x subtract 2x is 0, so I have negative 3 equals 2x subtract 11. Now then, I have my subtract 11 over here with my x's, so I'm going to add it. This is 0. 3 out of 11, so 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 8 equals 2x. Then divide by 2. So x equals 4. Ooh, fractions. Oh, 1/2 x minus 4 equals 5/8 x. When I see these problems, I want to get rid of the fractions first. So I see that I have 1/2 and 5/8 as fractions. This 4 is over a 1 right now. So I'm looking for the common denominator so I can get rid of my fractions. 2 goes into 8. You have to look for your bigger one. So we're going to multiply every bit of this, the entire equation, by 8. So I don't have to look at fractions. You can work it with the fractions if you want. You'd subtract 1/2 and then divide that 4 by that. Okay, so 1/2 of 8 is 4x. 8 times 4 is going to be 32. 8 times 5/8, when I do this, it's going to be 8 times 5 is 40, divided by 8 is 5. Or you can just say the 8's are going to divide by each other and be 1, and just get that 5, if it's the same. But then I'm going to move my 4x. because it's just a normal linear equation now. This is 0, negative 32 equals x. Lots of x's. Okay, so I have x times 4x minus 6 equals 4x plus 4 times x minus 3. Okay, so x times 4x first. Whenever you're multiplying x's, you now have two x's, right? So how we write this is going to be 4x squared, because that means there's two of those x's. When I just do x times negative 6, I have them both together now. So here, equal sign. 4x times x, I have two x's, so x squared. 4x times a negative 3 would be 4 times 3 is 12. Keep your x. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times negative 3, be sure you watch your signs here, is negative 12. Whenever, I should have been more, you take whatever this first number is when you're multiplying with this and multiply by everything in these parentheses. So that's how we did 4x times x to get 4x squared, 4x times negative 3 to get negative 12x. Then you take your second term and you multiply by everything in those parentheses. So 4 times x is 4x, 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. I hope my arm's not blocking that. And then we can combine these terms right here. So I'm going to go ahead and write this back down. 4x squared subtract 6x equals 4x squared. Negative 12 plus 4 is going to give us negative 8x minus 12. Then we're going to combine our 4x squares. And when I do that, the reason I didn't say which one's smaller, they're the same. So it's 0 on both sides. So I have negative 6x equals negative 8x. Subtract 12. Since I just have x over there and this one is the smaller one, I'm going to add my 8x. And I've ran out of room, so let's come over here. So I'm going to have 2x, negative 6 plus 8 is 2, and then I have my negative 12 left. This is multiplying, so we divide. So x equals negative 6. Okay, so here, this is a why can't I think of the word of it? We can solve this using cross multiplication though, because if you find your common denominator, it's going to be 4 times x plus 5. And if I do 4 times x plus 5 on this side, I'm going to end up just doing 4 times x. And same thing over here, I'd be doing x plus 5. So we cross multiply here. And we can only do this because nothing is being added and subtracted on these outsides. If there was a plus 1 over here, we couldn't do this. We'd have to scratch it, find our common denominator, and multiply everything by the common denominator, and then work the problem. But it's not, so we can. So I'm going to rewrite this as 4 times x equals 5 times x plus 5. So here we're going to have 4x equals 5x plus 25. And then I'm going to move my 5x over to the 4x because there's just an x on this side. So I have negative x equals 25. Divide by negative 1, so x equals negative 25. Two more problems. Same thing here. So I'm going to cross multiply, so I'm going to have 7 times x plus 3 equals 2 times 4x subtract 3. So 7 times x is going to be 7x. 7 times 3 is 21 equals 2 times 4x is 8x. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. So I have a 7x and an 8x. 7x is less than 8x, so I'm going to move it to my 8x. So then I'll have 21 equals x subtract 6. You need to get x alone, so since it's subtract 6, the opposite of subtraction is addition. So we're going to add 6. So 27 equals x. Here is a literal equation. It's called a literal equation because there is no numbers. So this is what they give us. F equals, and they want us to solve this for r. So we need it to be r equals. So looking at where r is now, we need to get r to be the one that is the equal sign. So the opposite of division, because it's being divided right now, my r is, I'm going to multiply by r. Whatever you do on one side, you have to do on both. So I'm going to have fr equals mv squared. And then, since I need r alone, f is with r, they're being multiplied right now. So the opposite of multiplication is division, but we're moving the f away from r. So r equals, I think it's mass times velocity squared divided by force. What does r stand for? Resistance. Since it says mechanics, this is a real equation that's used. One thing on these problems is that you need to watch your cases, like, so since the m and the v were lowercase, it needs to stay lowercase. I want to see if it, one thing I want to show y'all real quick, if you ever get stuck, here, let's try again. You can do ask my instructor, and this sends it directly to me. I'm not going to send it to myself. You can go to textbook. It's going to pop up the book. I have notes already available for y'all though, so if you don't want to read all of this. Where is the... You can do view an example on some of these. If you do view an example, it's going to give you, like, it's not going to mess up your problem. And it's just going to walk you through steps of this. If you do help me solve this, though, it's going to make you walk through this, putting in of your exact problem, and then it's going to change the numbers. So, it's just some little notes to share with y'all. Thanks.